Alright, so, it seems like not that long ago that the news broke that Roland Emmerich decided he was going to make not one, but 2 more sequels to Independence Day.
Oh,
Pretty
boy.
close together. Like, his plan, I think, was, like, to have them really close together. And there was word about whether or not who was going to return.
Gotcha.
And for a while there, I think it was assumed that Will Smith would be returning. But alas, he does not.
What happened with that? Do you have any idea?
He maybe just didn't want to.
I really don't blame him. No.
He said yes to Bad Boys 3, no to more Independence Days. Maybe he doesn't like Roland Emmerich.
Mae Whitman dodged a bullet, too.
So, we start off with what could potentially be the start of a reinvigoration of this, what now it's a franchise. With, not Independence Day 2, but Independence Day Resurgence. Because that just sounds like an award-winning title.
Straight to
it's
DVD land.
I was getting Alien vs. Predator vibes.
No, seriously, the whole time it was AVP. It really was.
But with the not so good parts of Starship Troopers thrown in.
Hero's Duty from Wreck-It Ralph always came to mind for me for some reason.
Okay, so now not only I guess we're going right into this. So we're just gonna dive right into something that probably is my least favorite thing in this movie. So Bill Pullman does return, because President Moore is now having post-traumatic stress 20 years later. He's having nightmares, he's got the fuck my life beard, and he's freaking out because he's just kind of sensing, oh my god, they're coming back. And we have brought back Jeff Goldblum, obviously, who's still Goldbluming as much as he's ever Goldbloomed in his life. Vivica A. Fox comes back too. Probably some more people that I'll remember as we continue.
Brent Spiner.
Yes, of course.
That's a big one for me.
We'll get to that though. That's now. Actually, I'll bring that up right now. That was a bit confusing to me. Like, I remember kind of hearing he was supposed to come back, and it's weird that he's never changed in 20 years.
Oh, he hasn't.
Only problem here, though, is, I mean, they dance around it, but even so, he was so fucking dead at the beginning or the end of the first movie.
Agreed.
He was so dead.
Absolutely.
That was so cheap to say, oh no, he's in a coma. But that's not all the cheap tying up things we do. The first thing I wanted to bring up, the thing that I kind of hate the most in this movie, is not only do we bring back some people but not Will Smith, but we basically have, okay, so, the kid, was Ross Bagley in the first movie, who you probably know as Buckwheat in The Little Rascals. He was also, Nicky in The Fresh Prince in the later seasons. He is grown up now, obviously. As has the president's daughter, who was Mae Whitman in the first movie, but is now Megan Monroe from It Follows, which is weird in itself that you have a very steadily working actress that you could bring back.
Yeah, no lie.
To totally bring some cohesion here. And that would actually be pretty cool, too. That wouldn't be something you see every day. To have an actor or actress do a role when they're like 7, and then be able to come back 20 years later and play the part again.
Screw you, Roland Emmerich.
But they basically... Apparently, did I hear correctly that she wanted to as well? They just said, fuck you.
They never even came to her with the idea.
They just said, well, this is a new It girl, so we'll go It.
She had Parenthood. Obviously, she was known for that. She did all the Tinkerbell movies. I mean, she could have easily done this.
But anyway, so regardless of the fact that we have... He wasn't Will Smith's son, obviously, but he basically was. But regardless of the fact that that character is still here, we basically have a Hiller replacement. That's not even him.
Nope.
I'm of course referring to the cancer of the movie industry, the cancer of the blockbuster industry. And that is, of course, the less charismatic, less charming, less every fucking thing under the sun Hemsworth. Liam. There's a third brother, but he's been in like 2 movies and nobody cares.
I was wondering if there was a third brother that could take the heat off of Liam a little bit. Probably not.
So, And you see, that's the thing is, I've seen some interviews with him, and he seems charismatic enough, and he seems likable enough. But you put a camera in front of him for a movie that's going to be seen by millions, possibly billions of people. There's just just blank, just nothing. I just hate him. I hate looking at his face. I hate hearing him say words. I hate him with everything inside me. I just hate him so much.
Indeed.
And he's our new hero, and he is he's Whitmore's daughter's boyfriend, fiance. And the reason I know this is because that this movie is, okay. So blockbusters have a big problem normally, and especially when they have a lot of stuff going on, and that's exposition, where you get Nolan syndrome, where you have to explain everything that's going on so that the audience has everything established. No context clues, no hinting, no kind of building up to things that we kind of gradually figure out. No, everything, every connection that every character has, everything a character does in a movie, everything the plot is going to go towards, everything that is going on that you're looking at, will be explained to you as soon as a character is introduced or something happens, so that you're never, ever, ever lost.
Right.
They absolutely, positively think you are incapable of keeping up with them, so they'll make sure they blatantly tell you every single detail of everything before the movie continues. But the movie never really continues because the whole movie is spent doing this shit.
Yep.
The whole time. To the point that it was getting hilarious. Like, I actually could not stop. I actually just had to laugh every time they did it, and they kept fucking doing it. Because I made it a point to mention it to you, like half an hour into the movie. And that was just, we had just hit the tip of the iceberg, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
This movie is an exposition machine the whole time. Oh. It was like a Christopher Nolan movie if the only character in it was played by Michael Caine. That's exactly what was going on here.
Wow, that's a good comparison.
So start with, now you're probably wondering what has happened in the last 20 years. Well, the movie they make a reference to the fact that 20 years has passed in at least every other scene.
Mm-hmm.
And things are brought on, like, dude, I don't even remember his name, comes in, and there's Will Smith's picture in the White House, like right outside the president's office. And they're like, he was a hero, and it's like, yeah, we couldn't get Will Smith, but here's his likeness, and he was the big hero, and everybody knows this. He was, I think Goldblum says, he's the bravest man I ever knew. And it's like, how did he die? Number one, he is dead, and secondly, they were like testing a plane, and he crashed. It's like they were so bitter that Will Smith wouldn't come back that they gave him the most idiotic death they could possibly think of. Yes, so, and like I thought they were just gonna kind of like hint at it at first. They were like, you know, there's the picture of Will Smith, and it's like, he was a great man, and it's like, oh, he was, I guess he's dead, okay. And then, okay, that's all we need to know. It's like, yes, I remember that time vividly where he was doing that test flight, and he crashed, and he died. It's like, okay, thank you. That makes it worse, but thank you. And then we're introduced to Megan Monroe, and since she's not Mae Whitman, we need some help as an audience. So, dude comes in, and then she's like, yeah, I know, I so don't get the privileges of like I did when I lived here. And he's like, yeah, I remember when you lived here. And she's like, yeah, because my dad, you know, was the president 20 years ago. You know, because there's another reference to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, great. That's just the beginning of that too. We get like 5 more explanations of that she's that character. And then there's the whole when they're talking to Liam Hemsworth. Liam Hemsworth's got all kinds of backstory he wants us to know. It's like, yeah, you know, when I was at the camp and I, like, you know, got expelled or something. And then there's like, yeah, I was the youngest valedictorian at the academy. That's all these characters do is talk about each other. The shit that they already know about each other. That'd be like me talking to you and it's like, hey, you know, there's you, Owen, the guy that works at the movie theater and does the YouTube videos. Remember when you do YouTube videos? Because that's just what you do, right? I've known you for like 15 years, but let's talk about the fact that you make YouTube videos for a living. That's just that's
Yep.
every single conversation that is had in this movie.
It really is.
It's blowing shit up or that. That's it. And I know that's kind of what the first movie is, but maybe we'll talk a little more about that later. By that I mean another video.
Yeah.
Maybe in a couple of days. But
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe a long week for
it's just
fans.
nonstop. There's even those moments. Goldblum meets somebody when they're like on the moon, and they're riding there, and there's a dude in the back seat, and here, oh my god, the comedy relief in this movie is fucking painful. But, so this dude's just talking, and he's like, hey, I'm the comedy relief, and in case you didn't know, I have all these comedic lines I'm just gonna rapidly talk about, just to do that. And Goldblum just kind of turns around and says, who are you again? It's like, number one, I'm pretty sure Goldblum already knows who this guy is, but, so that we can have about 10 minutes of him explaining who he is within the plot, Goldblum asks him, who are you again? It's like when you see really, like heist movies, for instance, like really bad heist movies, where they're kind of sitting there, and it's like, they've rehearsed this, they've gone over this, they've mapped this out, they have this plan perfected because it is the day of the heist and they're standing right outside the bank. But you always have that character that says, okay, so what are we doing again? And the guy explains everything to the audience. It's just like that. All the fucking time. The whole runtime, all 2 hours. What I'm trying to say is that became tiresome.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say. There's a lot more things to dislike in this movie. There are more returning characters. Judd Hirsch comes back. I was not aware he was coming back. I was surprised to see him.
Yeah.
And we get somebody, we get a post-death appearance from Robert Loggia.
This is his last literal performance.
For like 10 seconds.
Yep.
He's on stage, he's introduced, he salutes, and he's gone. It's like, I'm like, he looked real fragile too.
Yeah.
So you could kind of tell where it was like, hey, do you think we could just get 10 seconds of you real quick for the great beyond?
Apparently he was the president. It doesn't really say that, but like in his his character was like the 43rd president right before she took over.
Yeah, Celia Ward's our president now. She doesn't do a whole lot.
Nope.
Just,
Not at all, actually.
She's no Bill Pullman, we'll say that. And so, while he's come up, let's talk about Bill Pullman real quick. I get why he's treated the way he is. But I had problems. Because when you look back, Bill Pullman in Independence Day is considered like one of the all-time great movie presidents.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loves that guy. And this is the guy that said, we will not go quietly into the night, and does the big speech, and he gets in his own fucking plane and goes up there, and he's like, you guys killed my wife, I don't care if I'm the president, I'm taking y'all out personally. I don't care. I will fuck all of you up.
Exactly.
I do not care. I am Bill Pullman. And he does just that. And that's why we love that character so much. Because it was just, he just drove through everything. Like, he had, like, his wife bites it. And that's a terrible thing. And then he takes one night to mourn. And then he's like, I can mourn my wife, for the rest of my life. But in order for the rest of my life to take place, I have to fuck these aliens up. And that's what I'm going to do to protect not just America, but the world. And then you cut to 20 years. And I get it. I get the idea behind making him the paranoid, oh shit, we're all doomed guy.
Right.
Because it raises the stakes. It makes you go, well, if Whitmore thinks we're all doomed, we might very well all be doomed. Because this is the guy that said, I may be the president, but I'm just gonna get in a plane and kill aliens anyway. Because he's just that much of a driving force in this fight.
Right.
But to make him the guy that's kind of, oh shit, I'm scared now. And the guy that is really, very vulnerable in the situation now. I get why it's there. I just don't like it. I do not like taking that character and turning him into this. I said, I get the point, I do, but I just really don't feel like the guy that one day after his wife died would get into a plane while he's still the president and shoot aliens. Will be the guy that says, suddenly, hiding under his blanket.
Keep Spiner like that character if you want somebody like that. Like, amp him up a bit, even more so.
At least he almost died.
Yes, exactly.
As I said before, he basically fucking died. That's just a movie cheating that he's back. No, he was in a coma. He was definitely in a coma. Okay, that's why he was laying there sprawled out with his eyes open and the thing around his neck, because he was in a coma. So anyway, and then another thing that I don't like here is, and I know a movie that's going to be brought up, but just give me a second, okay? This movie, in structure and the way things play out, is pretty much an exact replica of the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, we are repeating scenes left and right. And I'm thinking that's with the success of the Force Awakens, for instance. That's probably going to start being a popular thing to do. Because The Force Awakens got accused of that, but they did it in a real charming way to basically say, it's been a long time, but just so you know, we're still in this world, and we still know how to make a Star Wars movie. But here, I wasn't really getting that. I wasn't really getting that it was in any constructive way to make this movie just a copy of the first movie. And by that, there's the whole, sometimes, yeah, like I was talking about with The Conjuring 2, where you want to keep the same feel because it's a sequel. Like, unless you're doing something that's a whole different thing, because there are sequels like this, but for the most part, if you're going to make a movie and then make a direct sequel that has a totally and completely different feel to it, that can be kind of weird and probably a bit miscalculated. So for the most part, you kind of want to have like a kind of show that these movies are in the same world. However, some of these shots I would say, okay, that's fine because it's a sequel.
Right.
But then there's like entire scenes. Because, like, okay, for instance, the ship reveal is very similar. But that's another thing where it's kind of like, yeah, it's the same thing happening, so why not? It kind of gives us the same feel of, oh no, it's happening again. Okay. But then we have scenes like when Bill Pullman is pushed up against the glass, and he's got the thing around his neck, and the thing is talking through him. The exact thing that happened to Brent Spiner in the first movie. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily just an homage to that scene with Brent Spiner in the first movie. It is a recreation of that scene. Completely. And also, when the first attack happens, and like that scene, like Harvey Firestein's death scene in the first movie, when it's all the buildings are here, and then the explosion just kind of comes forward and wipes the street out. Mm-hmm. That exact shot is in this movie. And then there's it's the same formula too. There's the introduction of the characters, then there is the initial attack, and then like I said, the attack plays out the same way. And then sure enough, our next point has to be retaliation. And it just all goes, it kind of hits those exact same beats kind of all the way to the end. There is one particular scene, though, that really stood out. There is one scene. Of all the bad scenes in this movie, there is one moment that made me say, oh my god, yes. If the whole movie was like this scene, if the whole movie was as awesome as this one scene, that would be great. I don't know that I want to give it away. But I will just say it involves Bill Pullman. And as I'm saying, it's the same movie. So you probably know what it involves. And when that moment happened, I was like, oh, fuck, yes.
Too bad it just fell off after that.
That was a really great moment.
Agreed.
But...
Because we had just watched the original, hours prior.
Yeah, we did the double feature thing.
Yeah.
which is great. The first movie looks so good in comparison.
Even 1996
Oh my
graphics
God.
looks better than
We'll get
this
there.
one.
We'll get there.
Okay.
In a couple of days, we'll get there.
Right on.
Yes, that was another big problem. But here's something really weird, though, that I just couldn't wrap my head around. Yeah, it's a sequel to Independence Day. There's a whole lot of destruction in it. And in formula and structure, it's the same damn movie. But the weird thing about it is, regardless of what you say about him and how you feel about him, Roland Emmerich has a pretty distinct style.
Yeah.
Like, when you watch, I understand the confusion between him and Michael Bay, sure. But, I mean, when you look at Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow and Godzilla and 2012, you know they're all the same dude. You can just tell they're the same dude. This does not feel like an Emmerich movie. Mm-mm. I don't know who this feels like, but this did not feel like it. This felt way too... I don't know. Because Emmerich's movies are not held in high regard, as you can tell.
Yes, indeed.
But there was something here that just seemed very, very below Emmerich. And I don't know... I can't put my finger on what it is, but it just did not... Every now and then it does. Like, Joey King and her group felt like they just drove off the set of 2012.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which was really confusing, by the way, because you have... this is just more poor writing. And how many people wrote this movie? Like 5? Good God. So Joey King's like in a van or something.
5.
And she's got a group of people with her. And the way they come into the movie, I thought I had missed something. Like, I thought I'd blacked out. Like, they just kind of drove in like we had spent a lot of time on these people beforehand. And they're kind of the only characters treated this way, too. Everybody else kind of gets an intro. But just halfway through the movie, these characters are just dropped on us from out of nowhere. And I really, like, I had to sit there going... I actually stopped to rack my brain and was like, were these characters here in the movie before? How did I miss them? What happened? Did I pass out or something? And then they picked up Judd Hirsch and there was a whole lot of stuff. And then I realized, oh, this is the first time we've seen them. Okay. You know what? I'll go even farther down the totem pole. It kind of also felt like they had just driven off the set of San Andreas.
Oh, God.
Okay, yeah, we'll say that.
Yeah, that's a better comparison.
That's why it didn't feel like an Emmerich movie. It felt like San Andreas, which did feel like an Emmerich movie, but a really, like, low tier one. I know all his movies are practically low tier, but this is how low we're talking.
I hate 2012.
Now, he has movies that aren't like this, like The Patriot.
Yes, I like The Patriot.
But where I think he also did, like, 10,000 BC. But
that
doesn't tie into anything. That's its own entity of, please go somewhere and die.
No more Emmerich movies.
But no, that's the thing, though, is Emmerich typically makes movies that can be guilty pleasures, you know? Like, I was really entertained by 2012, honestly. And then there was Tom McCarthy was the stepdad. Come on.
I know, but still.
And Woody Harrelson was the Randy Quaid of that movie. And The Day After Tomorrow has its moments as well.
I really hate that movie.
But they're idiotic, but, you know, who cares? Because this is what Emmerich does best.
Right.
But here? No. There's no fun to be had here. I know people will, and that's great for them, but it was not happening for me. Not in the slightest. You know, it's very... I don't know. And then they introduced... There's one character in here that seems like I said, we're getting an Alien vs. Predator vibe, which is not good news.
No.
This guy that comes in, it's got, like, swords and shit. He seems like he was supposed to be in a Predator movie. I don't know how he got here. But he did bring some interesting things. So, like, we typically see, you know... Like, the only way the aliens are killed in the other movie is through air battles and shooting. It was kind of interesting to see some dude just stabbing them. I know Will Smith punched one, but still. Just seeing one straight up stabbed. It was new for this movie, for this franchise. So, yeah. They do kind of... It goes for self-deprecating for a second. Because there's one thing everybody talks about with Emmerich, and Goldblum brings it up. Yeah, there's actually a moment where they're flying through all the carnage, and Goldblum basically says, watch out, they like going for the monuments. Because everybody's thing was, all Emmerich movies are the deconstruction of all the different monuments.
Yeah. That's very true.
If they're in there, they'll be taken. I don't know how many times Emmerich has taken down the Statue of Liberty. It's a lot. Oh, God.
He watches Cloverfield and cries because he couldn't do it himself.
Well, he'd already done it at least 3 times before Cloverfield. Right. Oh, God. I can't even read my notes.
William Fichtner and Charlie Gainsbourg.
Yeah, when William Fichtner came in, I thought I was watching Armageddon for a second.
Oh my God, I know. I totally agree.
Okay, now I don't know what's an Emmerich ripoff, what's Emmerich, and what's Michael Bay anymore. There's just all, it's just all a tornado of I don't know anymore. Oh, God. Yeah, because Fichtner's been in a few Bay movies now. I know he's in Pearl Harbor, too.
Right.
At least. But yeah, they're just all blending together now. And this felt way below most of this movie. It's like, yeah, you get some, guilty pleasure out of stuff. The effects are good. But most of the time. Like this, when they're like really big, they're good. Sometimes, weirdly enough, when it's not big explosions and shit is when the effects don't look good. It's all the action scenes are when the effects look really, really good. But maybe not up to the level of the first movie from 20 years ago. I don't know what that says.
The dog diving from the fire is
we'll get to all that stuff later. All that stuff.
I like talking about that scene.
So I just... Yeah, Goldblum doesn't get a lot to do.
No, not really. He's kind of there.
And then, they really abuse the fact that they had a lot of returning characters.
Chad Hirsch and the kids. And...
So, yeah. I just don't like this movie at all.
No. I don't think it's the last time we'll talk about this movie in the next couple weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't edited a certain something since last night, so we'll have to see how that plays out. So, yeah, there's really not... I don't know. I don't know who's gonna like this. Because I don't... Okay, well, here's the thing. I was kind of on board with the idea... Like, maybe they'll do something fun with it.
Right.
It was indeed the casting of Liam Hemsworth, where I was like, there's just literally no way this movie can be good. A movie starring Liam Hemsworth, like, in the starring role. He's first credited.
I know.
Which probably should have been Goldblum's credit, but fuck it. No, Liam Hemsworth gets the first credit, and he's the dude there. I just don't know how a movie can be good.
They're trying to make him Sam Worthington with Avatar. That's exactly what this felt
that's
like.
Promising.
I'm not saying that's good for us. That's good for everybody else.
Sam Worthington hasn't had a real hit since Avatar.
But
to be fair, I can tell you when Sam Worthington's next big hit will be. Avatar 2. In like 3 years.
3,000 years. If anybody still gives a crap.
So, yeah. I'm sorry, Liam Hemsworth. I don't mean to offend you. Like I said, you seem like a nice guy, but... Just when he's in a movie, I just can't do it. Like the Hunger Games, he was on the side.
Yeah.
Like if he and Hutcherson had switched roles in the Hunger Games, I probably would not like those movies.
Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't.
Like, that's how badly he really brings a movie down. Like I said, when he's got the starring role, you get Paranoia, you get Love and Honor, you get Empire State, you get Cut Bank. Who's giving him shit? Do they mistake him for Chris? Is that what the problem is?
It might be. I mean, let's see what he has left to do now. Does he have anything on the horizon?
The Expendables movies had it right. They're like, okay, we're gonna put him in this movie, but we'll give him 2 scenes where Jean-Claude Van Damme fucking kills his ass.
He's in a movie coming out later this year called The Duel
with Woody Harrelson.
With Harrelson, yeah.
I think that's like just that's not a wide release by any means.
I'm looking at it. There's no way it could be.
All right.
It came out in June, according to this.
Okay, I think we'll. I feel like I'm missing. There's little callbacks. The hospital, I believe, is named after Whitmore's wife.
They even mentioned that too.
So there's stuff like that. Oh, I saw the subtitle. Did they mention it in dialogue too? They probably did. Because they mention every damn thing in dialogue.
Your drinking game probably would make people blackout drunk by the time the movie was over.
Good lord. Okay. I really feel like I haven't touched on everything, but at the same time, I can't think of what's missing. But that's it. That's it. It's the first movie, just real shitty. This review could have been 2 seconds. Instead, it was half an hour.
Good lord.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Our second movie is The Shallows. The Shallows is basically a one-person show starring Blake Lively. Take that for what you will. Maybe that's good news, maybe that's bad news. It depends on who you are. I wasn't too keen on her for a while. I like those Sisterhood of the Drowning Pants movies. I don't care.
Yeah, same here.
Like I'm kind of shy about saying it, but at the same time, no, I don't care if you know that. But even so, and then she got a lot of praise when The Town came out.
Oh yeah.
And even though that's like one of my favorite movies of the past decade, I never really got that praise too much. She was fine. Mm-hmm. And then The Age of Adeline came out last year, which was not that great, but had moments. But she showed that she can be really good at something, and she can lead a movie, for sure. So I wasn't quite sure how to take what was basically... I actually honestly didn't know it was like an all is lost scenario until I saw it. I kept thinking of Open Water, so kind of. Just with one person instead of two.
Right.
Which basically makes it all is lost without a boat.
Basically.
All is lost on a rock. That's what it is. Which also gives it 127 hours vibe. Yep. Actually, it's got very much a 127 hours vibe. Not just from the whole being stranded alone and the danger of nature thing.
The setup.
But the whole thing where it's the scene in 127 Hours when he meets up with Kate Mara and Amber Tamblyn.
Yep.
Amber Tamblyn, going back to
there you go.
She basically has that scene in this movie before all the trouble starts, where she's having fun with two strangers. The whole setup. Yeah. And then it's basically what it is. This is a very, very, like I get, with movies like All's Lost, 127 Hours, and Open Water, it's clear you can have a very bare-bones survival movie. So people like to throw gravity into this too, this area. It depends on how vast your term of nature goes, but it's
right.
Kind of the same thing. You can do something this bare bones, but make it really suspenseful and really, engrossing and all that. You can do it very slightly, like Open Water does, or you can do it like Danny Boyle did with 127 Hours and make it really, really damn flashy. And both work within the confines of their own movie. This one kind of doesn't really take a particular approach. It just kind of is here. That's probably its biggest problem. Is there's no real particular approach to it. It's just kind of she's there, and then she gets her leg bitten. And then she basically has to... Because everybody... This is actually kind of getting annoying. I want to see a one-person survival movie where the person has no idea what they're doing. Every single person ever in a one-person survival movie is always fucking MacGyver.
Yep.
Every single time.
I agree.
They always happen to know exactly what to do to stay alive.
It'd have to be a short...
She just, like... Aaron Ralston obviously was a real person, so he actually knew a lot of the stuff he had to do. Here she just happens to be a doctor. Or she's training to be a doctor. So she just happens to know when the gangrene is setting in and how to treat and sew up her shark wound with nothing but the things she has on her and the rock. She knows how to... She fixes a bird's goddamn wing. In the middle of all this. Yeah, I don't...
That bird was awesome.
I know. What a strange statement.
It just was.
Okay.
It was a cool character. I was worried that the shark was going to get the bird. Honestly, I thought one scene you're panning in, next thing you know, and then it's over.
There's all the shit here. There's it's a very, I mean, regardless of this stuff, like when you watch, I mean, like we said, 127 Hours is a real movie,
right?
Or a real situation.
Yes.
It was a real story. There's it is. But with stuff like Open Water and All Is Lost, you're never quite sure whether they're gonna get out of it alive or not. That could have been this movie, where we're not sure. But this movie's real predictable the whole time. And you know it's gonna be from the very start when we have the stuff, like all the stuff that's been in here before. We have, there's the false scares.
Mm-hmm.
The moment where we have the Jaws shot, which this movie I'm sure took a lot of inspiration from. When she's on her surfboard and she's just hanging out there, and we're zooming in, and we're real dooming, and we're getting closer and closer and closer, and then it's a fucking dolphin. And then that's great. If this movie had been about a rogue dolphin that just went insane, whoa, okay, it's unpredictable now.
Yeah.
But no, and then not only do we have the false scares, we also have the false saviors. Where, oh no, there's somebody. Oh, look, she's gonna have help. The movie's only been on for 20 minutes, but I'll bet she's gonna get help from this guy. Oh no, they're driving away. Oh, I did not see that coming 20 damn minutes into the movie.
Oh, they stopped. Oh no, they're leaving again.
Oh god. They pull that shit a few times. And then it's like
the drunk guy on the
and then
beach.
they bring in more characters, and it's like, oh hey, the movie's only been on for 35 minutes, but we see you, we're coming for you. The shark is gone, we're good. Oh, bummer.
That scene's in the trailer too.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
Oh god. And then it starts to get well, branching off of this, I wasn't quite sure how to take her performance either.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very much, it's hard to say how one would react in this situation without actually being there, I suppose. So, when you see the way because the way they do it, is the way they show, like when somebody gets attacked or she's seeing something horrific, we always see her reaction, a prolonged shot of her reaction before we see the aftermath of what happened, because the movie's only PG-13.
Right.
So a lot of the terror hinges on how she reacts to it. And thus how the audience will react to it. And there are scenes where she's towing so much of a line, it's kind of hard to tell what's realism and what's ridiculous. Because like I said, until we are, hopefully never, but in the event that we would be in that situation, we will never truly know, right? So we can't necessarily
I think we're both dying in that.
So we can't necessarily say I would never react to a shark biting a dude in half that way. Blake Lively's a terrible actress. I would never react that way in real life.
Put that guy in the middle of the water right now.
I don't know. But
in his suit right now.
But I could just sense, like, I can't really... Like, if a performance's realism is enough to where it's effective, you'll know.
Right.
You'll see something and feel the terror in it. Yeah. Whether we know that's how somebody would react for real or not. If it's going to be effective, it would do just that. It would be effective and we would know. But there were some portions of it where I was like, yeah, but then... I don't know. This performance could be one or the other. I'm not quite sure. And then, so yes. And then it kind of becomes a, remember the showdown at the end of Jaws with the barrel and shit?
Right.
It kind of becomes, this is when it gets to the point to where if the movie had been done a different way, it would have been a question from beginning to end whether or not she was going to survive. But from very early on, and as the events continue to go on, we realize what kind of movie we're watching, and we know it's not really up in the air. This movie, we kind of know where this movie's going to go, and where the climax is going to be, what the climax will be like. Where, yeah, she basically the only thing she doesn't do with the shark is get into a fist fight. Yeah, I was like, I guess people kind of like it, from what I understand so far. I don't know how that's gonna hold up, but I don't know. I kind of get the appeal, I do, but it's just such a been there, done that thing now. That they don't add anything to, and it's not even necessarily a movie like Open Water or All Is Lost. It's definitely much more of it's almost an action movie. Which is kind of ridiculous, given the setup. The moment, for instance, when there is a whale in the water, just hanging out there, basically dead. It's pretty much dead. And this shark is so powerful and such an antagonist that to get to Blake Lively, there on her little rock, this shark pushes the whale out of its way. quite effectively. The thing goes damn flying. This is basically one of the sharks escaped from Deep Blue Sea. Yeah. Like the real souped up sharks from Deep Blue Sea is what we're dealing with here. And that's a little, I mean, Deep Blue Sea is a pretty fun movie. Let's not pretend it's not.
Oh yeah.
But in this movie, I would not expect to see one of them. Especially since we're trying as hard as we can to play up the realism. I don't know. It's very, very repetitive. There is a lot, I mean, I get the point is that, you know, it's a dangerous place out there, and that she's in the shallows. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how many times is she gonna crash into shit?
Yeah, I know. And then next thing you know, blood in the water, and she has to get back on the rock. And
it's like every other time she's in the water, she's just fucking crashing into something. And after a while, it's like, okay, is this showing the dangers of the sea, or just how fucking klutzy she is?
How is this not in 3D? I'm honestly surprised, looking at it, that they didn't try to convert it to 3D just for a cash grab.
Or maybe in 2011 or something.
Yeah, I mean, like, back
then. It's 2016, though. Nobody cares anymore.
This is true.
Yeah, we didn't even mention... there was no point in mentioning Independence Day was. And that was the... You win some, you lose some. We got the double feature, but Resurgence had to be in 3D. But
yeah, I wasn't happy with that.
But anyway, it's definitely... It's 87 minutes. It's an hour 27. But it cannot sustain that.
No.
This is not a feature-length movie. They make it a feature-length movie, but it's not a feature-length movie. And I just, like, there could have been something here, but, it's just all very much, familiar waters, if you will. Our third movie, and last one, is Free State of Jones. Matthew McConaughey's Civil War movie. Which I guess had, like, when the trailers came out, I guess a lot of people were saying, like, wow, that looks a lot more interesting than I thought it sounded. Because we don't have very many Civil War movies compared to others. And when they come along, they're usually... either they're a big deal, or they really, really put effort into being a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is brought to us by Gary Ross, who has an interesting filmography.
A lot of good stuff on that I enjoy on this
There was
list.
Pleasantville, and then he did Seabiscuit, and then The Hunger Games. I think those are the big ones. Did I miss anything major? Oh my sweet Jesus. Just directing. Nope, that's it.
Directing.
He's got a lot of writing credits. Yeah, he's one of the writers on Big. God bless you.
Trial and Error, Mr. Baseball.
Don't talk about Mr. Baseball.
I like Mr. Baseball.
I
don't know why, I just do.
Shut up.
I like Dave. Dave is good. Dave's a good movie.
I love that the topic of discussion is Free State of Jones, and right now we're on Mr. Baseball. Oh my god. Okay, so, and the reason that's funny is because the first thing I want to bring up is you might notice if you saw Glory that Civil War movies can be pretty graphic.
Oh, yeah.
Among other movies, but Glory's obviously Glory's like the quintessential Civil War movie. So it is worth noting that this movie, even if you know this genre is your thing, I think you should still know going in just how graphic this movie is. It's really jarring, which I'd say is an asset actually, because it's this movie is not messing around putting you in those battles. The whole production factor is really well done. However, like I said, though, I really try to not even really pay attention to this stuff. I did just vaguely hear that this movie was not being well received, which made me really curious. So I was a little cautious, but at the same time, I wasn't sure because this is probably a big thing to bring up before we go forward. Apparently, one of the reasons supposedly this movie is not getting a good reception is that the character that McConaughey plays is apparently quite controversial in history. Because he's in a political sense, to where there's basically one side sees him as kind of good and heroic or whatever, but then there's a whole other side that sees him as a villain in this part of history. Now, mind you, I was not familiar with this figure prior to this movie, so I do not have a stance on that. The only thing I can tell you is what I thought of this movie as itself. So that's not going to have any bearing one way or the other on what I'm about to say.
Right.
Is what I wanted to bring up. So when we start off, he is a nurse in the war, which is... yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing when you see, but it's very, I do like, some of the writing is decent. No, that's a good thing. I'm not saying, the writing's a piece of shit and some of it's fine. There is some good stuff here, like, the way they kind of build that up where he is, obviously he's McConaughey, and if you look at the posters, he looks all warrior-like, and he's got the gun and stuff. But when the movie begins, he's just a nurse in the middle of battle. And like I said, you get these really, really horrific scenes of people being treated and shot and their faces blown off and just all this stuff. I believe there were some intestine a little bit in one of those dudes, at least one. And then they're obviously, he's the subject of ridicule. But then he has the line where he says, well, when you get wounded in battle, why don't you go to another soldier to help you instead of me, because I'm clearly lower on the totem pole here because I'm a nurse. You go to a soldier, I'm sure he'll stitch you right up. Obviously, that's not quite the dialogue, but it's good to show where the character stands on where he is and where, regardless of a title or wherever he stands in the war, that he's there. He's there to not fuck around, one way or the other. And the weird thing about this movie, though, is something that we learn a little late. And that is, and this just really threw me off because when the movie starts, we get big dates. It says the month and then the year in big white letters on a black background to let you know what's taking place when. And when we have jumps in time that are like a year, that happens. So that we know where we are. Or it'll say 3 months later or something, or 2 months later, or whatever. In between. But then, just kind of right in a really weird place, we go forward. Now keep in mind, I'm saying we have a month and a year. And then if there's a time jump for 1 year, we'll get a new month and a new year. And that's 1 year. They make it a big deal when we're jumping a year in time. Well, right at some point in this movie, just very modestly, very casually, we cut to a courtroom. And there's a trial underway. And just in very small letters, like it's no big deal at all, 85 years later. And this 85 years later portion, we continuously cut back to within the movie. Like, it's not like we suddenly cut 85 years and then a new story goes on. This trial is weirdly intercut with the full movie, which is the McConaughey story in the 1850s. And that was bizarre. And the problem is that it is the trial that's going on it is the great grandson, I think they said, of McConaughey's character. Mm. And the problem is that Gugu's character that he had a child with. Obviously, there is a mixed race thing here, which brought about some legal problems in this particular era of time. Which is Jeff Nichols' new movie. That's a whole new movie by itself that comes out later this year. But in the meantime, it is a very, very small snippet of this movie as well. But the only trouble is that it is so few and far between. Like, I guess I would get it if it was like a parallel story and they lined up and they kind of had mirroring things going on. And, like, one thing is happening because another happened. I could totally see a back and forth there. But number one, there's not a whole lot of connection other than this is the result of he and Gugu's child. And how it affected him 85 years down the road. But we so few and far between cut back to it. And when we do, it feels so irrelevant. Like, I get how this could have worked, but the way it's put together, and that's not even the beginning of the editing problems. My least favorite portion of this movie was the edit. Like, every other technical aspect of this movie is not bad. The way it's shot is a little unceremonious. But as far as all the other production values, that's great. The sound is really good. I don't know if that's just because of the theater that we saw it in. The sound's a little messed up, and the dialogue is much less prominent in the speakers than the rest of the sound. So maybe that was an advantage we had seeing it in that particular auditorium. But yeah, during the battle scenes when you can like hear the bullets soaring from one end of the theater to the other, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, the sound was great.
But then you have this editing. Like I said, not just even the flash forwards. That's its own fucked up thing. But there's no real cohesion to the scenes. The transitions are not gelling at all. There were a couple of like when he was going out into the woods for the first time, it was cut in such a weird way that I was never quite sure if we were watching the same scene or not. Like if we were still in the same scene or not. And it turns out I'm still not sure. Maybe I think we kind of were, but kind of not. I don't know. But yeah, it's very... Yeah, and they do this thing where it's clearly for effect, but it's kind of like scenes just abruptly cut off. That was just kind of off-putting and not really in an effective way. But, you know, that's... Like I said, the rest of the production values, though, great. There's a lot of good scenes, particularly they come from the fact that of just how intriguing the character that McConaughey plays is. Whether you see him as a hero or a villain or you're neutral. McConaughey's performance is obviously kind of the weight of the movie. And obviously we know that he's very much capable. He's long since capable of that now. It's a really good performance. Like I've been hearing, even the negative reviews are saying that they love him. And because not only everything that's going on, he has like throughout the movie, despite the character that he plays, he has a really vast array of emotions he's got to go through. On top of the fact that there's a lot of physicality. It's one of those performances that requires a lot of physicality, to the right kind. And it all just adds up to this really believable performance that really makes the character somebody you kind of want to see where he goes or ends up or how he handles a certain situation. Those particular scenes when he has a few times where he has to outsmart that guy that's chasing after him. That guy, I kind of like that guy. He kept giving me Sean Penn vibes. Like the scene where they have to have the standoff. And he actually, has the little girls hold guns also, and then he rigs the guns to make it look like he has an army with him. And then it's like I like seeing the character kind of find his way out of situations like that, but then at the same time you see the girls weeping after they've had to hold the guns on somebody, and it's like, wow, that's just not good parenting. Like, not at all. Like, I know it's for their own good in the long run, but I'm pretty sure they're traumatized now. But he still has, just McConaughey's really good. And I love some of his lines he has. Like I was talking about the nurse line, and then there's something I just like about the way he does it's a very McConaughey line. When that guy walks up to him and he's like real excited to meet him, and he's like, "Hey man, are you Newt Knight?" And he's like, "Every day." I think the real McConaughey kind of broke through a little bit.
A little bit? No, I'm positive you did.
And then there's also some stuff where after a while you're not quite sure what he's capable of. There's one kill in this movie that's particularly brutal without being bloody. And it's like, wow. It's like, I did not see him going that way. And that's good too. But the thing that, for the most part, as far as the other characters, there's really only two real distinguishable characters here between McConaughey's character and Moses. Are kind of the characters that really stand out. The rest of them are just kind of like Kerry Russell and Gugu and stuff like that. They're here, but they're kind of... They could have had more of a presence, but that's probably more the writing's fault.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless of that, though, regardless of the fact that there's really only two real distinguished characters here, there's still moments where it's, there's a scene where a few characters get killed, and I actually was, bummed out. And I was like, oh, yeah. not those guys.
I know.
It's such a bad way to go, too. So there's still characters that make themselves known if they're just not very fleshed out or anything. But they make themselves known enough to where you're bummed out if they have a horrible death.
I like the conversation with the kid who's talking about how you made my younger brother a private. Then he asks, how old is he? Is he younger or older? And of course he says younger. And he's like, well, how about you be a corporal then? And then they go after the Union guys and the Confederate guys one day. And the next thing you know, it's like, they take the hat from him. It's like, how about you be a lieutenant? And he puts his hat on his head.
The hat from Sean Penn guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Whose name I never learned.
No. There's a lot of, people that are interchangeable in the movie.
And one problem, though, another problem that that's added from the flash forwards is that obviously we know that the Gugu story is going to have significance, but for a very, very long time it doesn't. And they're taking their sweet ass time building to it. She disappears in and out of the movie.
Oh yeah. And
so just when it feels like the movie's kind of reaching a peak point, you just have to keep saying to yourself, well, we haven't even touched that story yet. That goes to the 85 years later stuff. So. And that ends up making it feel really dragged out, which is an issue.
It's the SpongeBob thing with the years later. That's what it kind of reminded me of a bit.
So many months later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one. But for the most part, I think the movie's okay. Like I said, there's production values. For the most part, it's got an interesting story. Sometimes you're kind of just waiting for it to do something. But when it does it pretty, yeah, it's fine. It's tolerable if a little long. Like I said, I think it feels long because of the way they split everything up. Apparently 2 people edited this too. I don't know how that happens, but so yeah, it's fine. It's really, really brought up by McConaughey's performance and a lot of production values. Like I said, the story has some interesting portions too. Like I said, accuracy, as I said before, I have no idea. I just know what I saw on the movie screen, and I thought it was fine. So, yeah. You done?
All right. So ends another edition of AJ's Movie Reviews, just a shade over an hour long. Next week, there's a lot.
Yes.
We got gifted with a bunch of things, actually. We have the BFG, we have The Legend of Tarzan, we have The Purge, election year, and yes, my theater got Swiss Army Man. Good God.
I'm very, very interested to see that movie.
Same here.
I hear so many interesting things about it.
Same here. AJ will basically get the weekend for the next 3 weeks. So I'll make the announcement because I can right now. Tomorrow is going to be the worst of the half-year video. Next week is the best of the half-year video. And the week after that's going to be the most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. AJ and myself doing the videos. I
still think that's pretty dragged out. You should probably put the best and the anticipated around the same time, because it's right at the beginning of July.
It's every single week.
Because you already
that's how it works.
Because it's the half year, but then by the time anticipated comes out, we'll be like a week into July.
It's okay. Nothing on our list, I'm pretty sure, is that week, so we should be fine.
Whatever you want to do. That's just my suggestion.
Everything is being recorded in June, but it will be up like second week of July. So
everything's being recorded as soon as we finish this one.
That's right. So versus this week, cryptic comment is Invasion. I'm sure you figured that one out.
Idea.
So stay tuned to the Podcast Network this weekend at Podcast Network on Twitter, Facebook fan page Podcast Network, and Zazzle.com/Podcast Network for merchandise. Tonight, Ring of Honor, Best in the World 2016 podcast with myself, Ashley, and Will, so stay tuned for that. Sip and Snack Random Flavors returns on Saturday, and Gaming with Ash returns on Monday. Back to the regular wrestling schedule as of Monday night. That being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. AJ, any parting words?
That's it.